Everyone is searching for moisture, but here is the truth that nobody wants to say out loud.
Don't take it personal, that's just Sandal's way. She speak with love, but don't sugarcoat what she say.
So get your notebooks out, okay? Most women are not losing their hair because it's weak. They're losing it because their hair is starving. There's no moisture going in, and there's definitely no hydration staying in for sure, because the moisture and the hydration balance is completely off. So it's just dryness stacking on top of dryness until the root, the follicle, gives up. And what's causing the starvation is not genetics and it's not age. It's something far more common, something almost every woman is doing without realizing it. And for many people, there are so many people that are struggling with slow hair growth, thinning in the crown, and breakage after certain lengths that you are really used to having. It's like, I always do this, right? The issue rarely starts with the hair itself. It starts with the scalp's environment. And in the natural hair community, don't get mad at me, a lot of popular do-it-yourself routines unintentionally create the perfect conditions for inflammation, microbial overgrowth, and long-term follicle damage. It is the perfect environment for all of the things. So let's break it down. Why exactly does food, oil, and inconsistent shampooing create the exact pattern that this person that we're going to talk about in a second described? And what are the peer-reviewed studies that prove that these patterns and practices impact the scalp? Let's break them down. Because when we look at it, you see this, you think male pattern baldness, right? Give me a 2 in the chat if you're following along with me, right? This is what you see, different signs of male pattern baldness. But what if I told you this is the very last thing that you should be looking at or comparing things to? What if I told you that? Because something far more sinister is actually happening, not sinister. So number one, the scalp is skin, and skin needs regular cleansing. So when shampooing is irregular or avoided altogether, 3 things happen. Number one, sebum, your scalp's natural oil, it accumulates. Number 2, the sweat and the environmental dirt, it binds to that sebum, because contrary to popular opinion, sebum is not an oil, it is a wax. So it's going to attract everything that comes out of the pores and everything that is actually on in the environment. This is why you're cleansing yourself on a regular basis. Number 3 is going to be the product layers on top of everything. And studies in a dermatology program, they are showing clearly that sebum, sweat, and a whole lot of these other products, they create an ideal environment for yeast and bacteria to overgrow. And again, when you head over to my blog, it shows you exactly what study I'm talking about. You can go read it for yourself, but you have to actually read it. Don't just pick one line like, oh yeah. No, read the whole study. So ignoring shampoo does not preserve nutrients. It actually suffocates the follicle. But again, Team Natural told you that you shouldn't shampoo as much. You use co-wash and conditioner because you're stripping your hair. You are not stripping your scalp when you shampoo. You are making sure the environment of the scalp stays balanced. Number 2, excuse me. Oil on the scalp feeds microbes. They don't feed the hair. This is something that you have to think about. Your hair is not eating the oil that you put in your hair or on your scalp. It's just a sealant. It's just sealing the hair. The only thing that's eating are the microbes on the scalp. So this is something that you need to understand. This is a big one. Heavy oils on the scalp do not penetrate the follicle or encourage hair growth. Peer-reviewed studies confirm that oils cannot bypass the follicular barrier, right? This is something that you really have to understand. This is when we're talking about the stratum corneum. The stratum corneum of the scalp is something that is meant to keep your scalp protected from environmental pollutions and so many other things. Number two is oil traps heat, moisture, and it is a ideal breeding condition for microbes. It's excellent. Oils also form biofilms, which make it harder to cleanse properly. This affects hair in major ways. And before we get into these two major ways, I want you to think about every time you use coconut oil on the hair and then go to a professional cosmetologist, it is literally like hell removing coconut oil from the hair shaft because of the biofilm that it ends up creating. Okay, so this effect has two different ways that it affects the hair. Number one is going to be follicle obstruction and poor oxygen flow, which is going to lead to weak hair growth because blocked follicles they end up shrinking, miniaturizing. And we have a whole video on follicle miniaturization. I tried to warn you guys, I've been trying to warn you for years. So you have shorter hair growth cycles, thinner strands over time, and then the appearance of alopecia, especially in the crown. And the B is going to be chronic microbial growth, right? Which is then going to lead to inflammation, which will then lead to breakage. That's why you can't retain your lymph. Inflamed follicles produce hairs that are really, really brittle. They break mid shaft, so that way they never reach full length and they shed easily. Exactly the pattern that this person has described. And as I say, this person, I should have their comments up on the screen. And even outside of this person, excuse me, guys, I was drinking something. And outside of this person that you'll see whenever I edit this video, you will see these are the exact things that they're experiencing. And if you're a person who experiences severe balding, thinning, and any of the things, these are most likely the things that you're experiencing too. Number three, food makes, right? Food mass, I'm sorry, create scalp inflammation risk and microbial imbalance. Drinking that juice did a lot. Let's do it again. Food mass creates scalp infection risk and microbial imbalance, right? So when we're talking about bananas, ginger, berries, watermelon, apple cider vinegar mixes, they're all extremely common in do-it-yourself natural hair routines, all extremely problematic for the scalp. These are all problematic. None of these are a good idea. And I've been saying these things for years, but you guys feel so in love with the idea of using the fruits and the vegetables in your house to do your hair that when I say, oh no, don't do that, it makes you upset. Number one, why food doesn't belong on the scalp? Because YouTube, after we got done, shaming cosmetologists and stuff, everybody completely fell in love with putting food on the scalp. And we're going to get into moisture and things of that nature in 1 second, you guys. But I need you to understand that before you can run to a product for anything, before I can give you a solution, I have to first unpack why you need the solution in the first place. We can't just hop straight to the solution without first dealing with what was broken. That's like you having a dude that be like treating you all dirty or whatever, or he did something he wasn't supposed to do, and then you forgive him, and then you just let him come back in. Y'all don't talk about the problems, y'all just jump right back in. No, let's talk about why we got here. Number one, food ingredients are not sterile. They carry microbes and sugar. This accelerates yeast and bacterial growth. So we know for a fact yeast lives on the scalp. And we also know for a fact, even when you're making bread, what do you use? What do you use to activate the yeast in bread? Somebody in the chat, please let us know. Really quick in the chat. If you are making bread, what do you put in it? What do you put in the bread to activate the yeast in the bread? Somebody. I'm going to put the chat on the screen for a second. Oh, the chat can stay right there. What happens when you put sugar in yeast? Yes, what happens? when you put sugar in yeast when you're making bread? Somebody let me know. What happens? The sugar is activating the yeast. So if we know for a fact sugar activates yeast when you're making bread, why do you think that you putting different foods and fruits and vegetables and things like that, was watermelon and all of the other different fruits that you're putting in your hair, they all have sugar. They have sugar content. And you have no idea how to balance it. And the ones that don't have high sugar content, you're feeding the yeast and the bacteria that lives on the scalp. That's number one. Number two, scalp cannot metabolize food particles. Your scalp is not like your gut. Can some of the key constituents, like let's say a ginger, for an example, can some of the key constituents of ginger kill some of the things on the scalp? Absolutely. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all little fruit rinses that y'all leaving on y'all scalp. Y'all little hairsprays made out of strawberry juice. Yeah, I seen it. Particles remain trapped inside of the follicles and creases. That's what's happening. Number three, sugars feed malassezia yeast. It is a fact. Head over to my blog post and I have the exact study that you can look at and read for yourself. Sugars feed the yeast that is in your scalp. But you guys have been following different things. There are even product lines online made by women in their kitchen that, with fruits and vegetables, and got to put it in the refrigerator because it's going to go bad, and it's made with fruit and stuff. Yeah. And then you use that maybe even 1 or 2 times. And then 6 months, even a year later, you're like, oh my God, I have CCA. Oh my God, I have a yeast infection in my scalp. Oh, I have this disorder. I have this form of alopecia. I don't know why. Because you've completely forgot about all of this. Number 4, fruit enzymes are irritants. Somebody write it in the chat and write it down. Fruit enzymes are irritants. They break down the skin barrier, causing inflammation. So when food sits on the scalp, it ferments, it oxidizes, it irritates, it feeds microbes, it inflames follicles. And this directly leads to burning sensations, tenderness, thinning in high heated areas like the crown of the head, because the crown of your head holds the most of your body heat. That's a conversation for a whole nother day. That's why you're losing hair the fastest, making yourselves into fruit bowls. My hair growth for a year then breaks off. This is the pattern that this person is going through over and over again. This is not a coincidence. It's a predictable response to scalp inflammation. This is why when we're on YouTube and people ask me certain questions, I answer them with questions like, okay, how long have you been using this? How long have you been doing that? What products do you put on your hair doing this? And I always know that this is the pattern. But you guys think that just because you've been doing something for 3 to 4 years and your hair looks beautiful or it feels great, that everything is okay. It don't work like that. Number 4, essential oils can trigger chemical irritation and follicle inflammation. This person was also using essential oils on a regular basis on the scalp, which I'm sure the majority of the people who are listening to the sound of my voice did as well. Essential oils are potent skin irritants. Even when diluted, they can still cause contact dermatitis, follicular irritation, dryness, inflammatory shedding, and I've made videos about all of these things. They're all on the channel. I haven't made these things just to irritate y'all. So you can also head over to my blog and look at the reference that I have in the American Academy of Dermatology and their whole study on contact dermatitis from essential oils. This is a study from 2014, and there are studies from way before that. This is just one that I'm giving you, one of many. When someone sprays the mist of essential oils, vinegar, and fruit extracts regularly, They are really doing way more harm than good. You're essentially applying a low grade chemical peel over and over and over again. Hear me again. When someone sprays a mist of essential oil plus vinegar plus fruit extracts regularly, not all mixed in the same bottle, but one minute you trying vinegar in your hair, one time you're trying essential oils, one day you're trying a fruit basket, you're doing all of these different things. They are essentially applying a low grade chemical peel over and over. This disrupts the skin's barrier and it weakens the follicle, which causes chronic shedding. That's why so many people experience shedding and all of the things, and then they watch some of my videos, stopping just a couple of things, and then the shedding stops. You know why? You're no longer giving yourself a chemical peel with apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar does not clean the scalp, it compromises the barrier. There's a difference. Apple cider vinegar is marketed everywhere as a scalp detox, but this is not the truth because different studies are showing the exact opposite. Apple cider vinegar does not remove sebum. It does not. Apple cider vinegar does not kill yeast effectively. It does not. Apple cider vinegar strips the lipid barrier, which is what the scalp needs to stay healthy. So when you put apple cider vinegar in your hair, you're not killing all of the microbes, no. But 1000%, you're killing the different layers of the stratum corneum. The reference is from different dermatological reports and the risk of acidic solutions on the scalp barrier because apple cider vinegar is a pure vegetable acid. No matter what anybody thinks or says, no matter how much any of you like it, it is the truth, no matter how you feel about it. This breaking of the barrier, the stratum corneum, give me an 8 in the chat if you remember me talking you to death about the stratum corneum. It's for a reason. Breaking down of this barrier, guess what it leads to, you guys? And now we're slowly getting into moisture, I promise. But once that barrier is broken, guess what you left? Guess what you left with? Dandruff, dryness, redness, inflammation, increased sensitivity, and more shedding. Combined with oils and food, it is a recipe for chronic scalp irritation. And all of these factors lead where? To CCCA like symptoms. CCCA has almost, not that Black women are the only ones with it, absolutely not, but it's, y'all have almost taken 1000% responsibility for it. And give me a 3 in the chat if thus far you can see why. Okay? All of these factors lead to CCCA-like symptoms. We have videos about CCCA that I'll leave in the description box below. You know, I am the CCCA girl, okay? Excuse me. While different things may not all be true when it comes to CCCA, inflammation caused by these do-it-yourself routines can mimic its early stages and symptoms, including thinning in the crown, tenderness in the center, slow hair growth. The person that we're talking about today says that my hair never grows past a certain point. That's a pattern that most people are dealing with. Breakage after 9 to 12 months of growing, low density, and patchiness. One thing again, I need you to do, go ahead and check the scientific journal that I use for a reference on my blog. So why is the crown always first? Well, the number one portion is the fact that it is the highest heat point of exposure on the body. Number 2 is it's the lowest blood flow. It has the lowest blood flow of the body, so that's why it's the first to go. Number 3, the sweat, the salt, it all accumulates there on the crown of the head, and tight curls have the sharpest bend, right? So you have a little bit more friction around there. So Knowing all of these things, right? Think of it like this. If the crown of your head has the highest heat exposure and you're constantly putting oils and butters on your scalp, and now you know what happens when oils get hot, they oxidize. What You're the cause of the thinning and the balding. It's a fact. It's a fact, right? Let's keep going. When you add buildup, oils, food with no shampooing, the crown of the head becomes the perfect storm. So when the scalp stays dirty, the hair breaks in a cycle. It's like something that can't be avoided. This man described a very classic cycle. Hair grows for months. Then the scalp becomes clogged and inflamed. And then number three, the follicles weaken, the strands grow out thinner. And then number five, hair breaks off around the same time each year. And then he has to shave it all off again. This is a textbook case of a chronic scalp inflammation plus follicle obstruction, not bad hair genetics. We always, when we don't understand our patterns, or when we're not ready or able or willing to let go of the patterns that no longer serve them, we throw them on genetics or we throw them on the Lord. You put them anywhere else but on you. And this is something that I really, really need you to think about. This is something that I really need you to take into consideration. Then we're going to hop into hydration. Girl, then I got to go do my baby hair. Okay. Number 8, the fix always starts with scalp hygiene. Growth does not restart until inflammation stops. Say that in the chat. Somebody type it in the chat for me, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on replay or in the YouTube video. Type it in for me. Growth does not restart until inflammation stops. This is why, before we hop into how proper hydration, shampooing, and conditioning prevent all of these problems, way before we get there, you have to understand that the patterns and the routines that you've had have led you here. Because if I give you this next portion, it's not going to work. And then you're going to be online like, see, I don't know what she's talking about because I did everything she said and it didn't work. Well, you didn't do everything I said. You're going to do everything I said in this next part, in part 2, after we read number 8. You're going to do everything that I say coming up in part 2 and skip over everything that I said above there. And it's not going to work because growth does not restart until inflammation stops. So let's get into it. After I put on chapstick, give me an 8 in the chat if you're still with me. We're okay. Okay. Proven steps backed by dermatology. All of these things, again, can be found on my blog. Number 1, regular shampooing 2 to 3 times weekly for inflamed scalps, right? Removes yeast, bacteria, buildup, sweat, and oils. It's a fact. These are not my opinions. These are peer-reviewed studies and actual tests, things that were tested over and over and over again. Nobody's making anything up. Number 2, stop putting oils and food on the scalp. Oils equal occlusion. Food equals microbes, and apple cider vinegar equals barrier damage. It's just as simple as that. Oils equal occlusion, meaning it's stopping oxygen flow. Food equals microbes, feeding the yeast, all of the things. And apple cider vinegar equals damaging that top layer of skin. That's all you're doing. Number 3, rebalance the scalp. This is something that you have to understand because ingredients like salicylic acid, zinc, and other things, right, that we've talked about in other videos, these things are all for restoring scalp health. And number 4 is going to be restore hydration. So you use water-based hydrators that are like really, really true to the hair, things that are for the hair. Don't put things that are for the hair on the scalp. This is when you have issues. And once the scalp heals, the follicles extend their growth cycle and the hair can finally grow past 1 year of breakage. It's the truth. So, what are the final takeaways from this first portion, right? The issue is not hair, it's habits. Say it with me in the chat, at least one person. The issue is not hair, it's habit. Now we're getting into hydration. Thank you, Bill. You so pretty, girl. You so pretty. Okay, so let's get into it. So now we're going to talk about how proper hydration, shampooing, and conditioning prevents all of these problems. Everything that we described above in principle is broken down easily into easy to follow steps that you will be able to make a part of your everyday habits without arguing and going back and forth with people. Inflammation, thinning, infections, breakage, crown damage, and CCCA like symptoms can be prevented with one simple principle. Just one. A clean, hydrated scalp cannot develop conditions that cause chronic hair loss. And that's something that most of my clients have a really hard time understanding, and not understanding, but like really accepting, because you've been taught for so long that your hair just needs all of these things and to follow all of these steps. They only told you that to sell you a product. A clean, hydrated scalp cannot develop the conditions that cause chronic hair loss. And here is exactly how to properly cleanse the scalp. This is how proper cleansing and conditioning stop every one of these issues way before they even start. Say, I'm ready to go, girl, in the chat if you're ready for me to break these things down. Let me see. There are things that I want us all to really center in on, because when it comes to hydration, these are the things that you're missing. And if you get all of these things together, then you won't be buying 50 million products every 5 minutes. Now, I'm not going to give you my step by step hold your hand directions, because those are from our gurus in the 7-day challenge and in the growth cycle blueprint. But I can give you basics. And if you want to go further, keep going further. But let's go. Number 1,